Welcome to another episode of the Burke Brigade podcast by Doggozila Magazine.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to get into this one.
Yeah, me too. So I want you, the listener, to picture this real quick. It's a perfectly calm Tuesday afternoon.
Right.
The sun is shining, there's like not a breeze in the air, and your house is just completely quiet.
Sounds nice.
Right. But then your dog, who has been, dead asleep on the living room rug for the last 3 hours, just suddenly shoots awake.
Oh, yeah. We've all seen that.
Yeah. And they start pacing the floor. They start whining. Then they start trying to physically squeeze themselves behind the toilet or under a piece of furniture they haven't fit under since they were a puppy.
The classic panic hide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you look at them totally confused and you're thinking, what on earth is wrong with you today?
Right.
And then, 20 minutes later, the sky turns pitch black, the wind starts howling, and this massive glass rattling thunderstorm just rolls in.
And you're sitting there like, oh, that's what it was.
Yeah. So the question is, were they just scared of the dark clouds? Or did they actually know it was coming long before you could even see a change in the weather?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. Are our canine companions actually like these four-legged biological early warning systems for natural disasters?
It's such a wild concept.
It is. And that is exactly what our deep dive is focusing on today. We're using this really comprehensive article from Doggozila Magazine titled Can Dogs Sense Natural Disasters? Superhero Pups as our main source.
And I really love the source material because it takes what is honestly one of the most fascinating questions in animal behavior, and it completely bridges the gap between, ancient historical folklore and cutting-edge modern biology.
Yeah, because we've all heard the stories, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We've always had these kind of spooky anecdotes, the family dog that wouldn't stop barking right before a tornado.
Right, or like the whole neighborhood of dogs just howling hours before an earthquake.
Exactly. And for a really long time, science just completely dismissed these stories as pure coincidence. Like it was just confirmation bias.
Just people seeing patterns that weren't there.
Right. But over the last few decades, as our understanding of canine sensory superpowers has grown alongside our ability to track mass data, the scientific community has kind of been forced to take these so-called myths seriously.
They can't just ignore them anymore.
No, they really can't. They've had to pull them out of the realm of superstition and put them right under the microscope. We are finally realizing that dogs are perceiving a very real physical world that is, frankly, entirely invisible to us.
Invisible to us, yeah. And to really wrap your head around how seriously science is taking this now, we have to kind of look back at the historical canvas.
Oh, for sure. The history's wild.
Because we aren't just talking about, a farmer in the 1800s noticing his cows acting weird.
No, not at all.
Ancient civilizations were meticulously documenting these animal premonitions centuries before anyone had even conceptualized what a seismograph or a barometer was.
Right. They had no technology, so they just had to observe the natural world.
Exactly. Like, there is this incredibly famous account from Thucydides.
The ancient Greek historian.
Yeah, Thucydides. And he detailed this catastrophic event in 373 BC. The city of Hellas was just absolutely obliterated by a massive earthquake.
And a subsequent tsunami, actually.
Right, a tsunami too. But what he recorded, what actually survived in the historical record for thousands of years, was that in the days leading up to the earthquake, the animals just straight up abandoned the city.
They just packed up and left.
Literally. Rats, snakes, weasels, and, dogs. They were observed fleeing hillies in these massive, unexplainable droves before the ground ever even started shaking.
It's such a striking image. And that observation from ancient Greece is, it's far from an isolated incident.
Really? There are more.
Oh, yeah. Modern historical analyses that look into unusual animal behavior right before seismic events, they found reports spanning over 130 different species.
Wow, 130.
Yeah, across almost every recorded culture. But dogs feature incredibly prominently in these accounts.
Well, I mean, that makes sense, right? Because they live inside our houses with us.
Exactly. They have such close proximity to human living spaces, so we notice when they act weird. And the specific behaviors that Thucydides and other ancient writers describe, the intense anxiety, the erratic pacing, the overwhelming urge to just flee the area, those are remarkably consistent with the exact behaviors reported by modern pet owners today.
Like, it hasn't changed in 2,000 years.
Right. And that level of consistency across millennia and across entirely unassociated cultures, I mean, It strongly suggests that we are dealing with an observable biological pattern.
It's not just like a localized cultural myth.
No, exactly. It's not just a spooky story passed down around a campfire. It's a physiological reaction to an environmental change.
And the stakes of those reactions can be just monumental. Like, let's fast forward from ancient Greece to a much more recent, like really well-documented example.
With Chang, China.
Yes. Haicheng in 1975. And I want to stress for the listener, this wasn't some remote little village, right?
No, this is a major metropolitan area.
We're talking over 1 million residents. And right before this massive 7.3 magnitude earthquake struck the city, local officials made this incredibly rare, super risky decision to order a full-scale, citywide evacuation.
Which is almost unheard of.
Right, to evacuate 1 million people. And one of the primary catalysts for that monumental decision was the severe, widespread, and just completely unexplainable restlessness of animals across the whole region.
Including a huge, sudden spike in reports of dogs acting aggressively, refusing to enter buildings, and just generally panicking.
It's crazy. And that Haicheng evacuation, that really is kind of a watershed moment in the field of seismology, isn't it?
It really is. It proved that these biological signals could, under the right circumstances, actually be utilized for human safety.
Like it wasn't just a party trick anymore.
Exactly. Is the specific event that initially prompted governments in earthquake-prone countries, particularly China and Japan, to dedicate actual state funding to research animal behavior.
Wow, so they put real money behind it.
Yeah, as a legitimate supplementary form of earthquake prediction. And we see these undeniable behavioral shifts in other types of disasters too.
Right, it's not just earthquakes.
Think back to the devastating 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami.
Oh, man. Yeah.
In the aftermath of that, there were hundreds of survivor accounts detailing how dogs behaved in the hours leading up to the wave actually making landfall.
What were they doing?
Well, owners reported their dogs flat out refusing to go for their usual morning walks on the beach.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, these were dogs that live for the ocean, they love the beach, but on that specific morning, they actively fought their owners. They were dragging on their leashes to stay inland.
Basically keeping their humans away from the coastline.
Exactly. They were effectively saving their lives.
It gives you absolute chills to think about, like, the sheer number of lives throughout history that might have been saved simply because a family decided to trust their dog's sudden, uncharacteristic panic.
Right. They didn't have the data, they just had the dog.
Exactly. They had absolutely no idea what the dog was afraid of. They just saw the terror in the animal's eyes and decided, you know what, we aren't going to the beach today.
Or, let's sleep outside tonight.
Right. They altered their entire routines based purely on an animal's instinct.
And that really highlights the critical shift in how we interpret these events today versus how our ancestors did.
How so?
Well, ancient civilizations often viewed these actions through a lens of mysticism. They thought the animals had divine premonitions or like a magical sixth sense that allowed them to peer into the future.
Like they were psychic or something.
Exactly. But the modern scientific approach looks at those exact same behaviors and just strips away the magic. Science views these actions as biological, physiological reactions to very real, albeit incredibly subtle, environmental stimuli.
So the dogs on the coast of the Indian Ocean in 2004.
They weren't predicting the future.
Right.
They were reacting to the present environment in a way that the human nervous system simply, couldn't process.
Okay, I want to pause here and just play the skeptic for a second.
Sure, let's do it.
Because I feel like we have to address the elephant in the room here. This all sounds super compelling, but isn't a huge portion of this just confirmation bias?
It's a very fair question.
I mean, let's be real about living with dogs. You know this, I know this. They do weird, completely unexplainable things all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, my dog will spend 20 minutes just growling at a plastic bag that got caught in a tree. Or he'll pace around the kitchen because he thought he heard a squirrel on the roof.
Right, they aren't always reacting to a natural disaster.
Exactly. And as humans, we only remember the one specific time the dog freaked out right before an earthquake because, well, the earthquake is this massive traumatic anchor in our memory. Yes. But we completely forget the 400 other times the dog paced around the living room on a random Thursday and absolutely nothing happened.
The misses.
Exactly. So how do researchers actually separate genuine biological premonitions from the everyday noise of just, being a dog?
That is the exact hurdle that modern researchers face. And it is a completely valid really necessary scientific criticism.
There has to be
It
addressed.
does. Critics rightly argue that animals exhibit strange behaviors for a multitude of entirely mundane reasons.
Hmm.
A dog might pace because of a sudden change in barometric pressure, sure,
Right.
but they also might pace because they have an upset stomach, or because their feeding schedule is delayed by an hour.
Or they want to go for a walk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or even because they are reacting to a really subtle emotional cue from their owner who happens to be stressed about work.
Oh, interesting. They pick up on our stress.
Very much so.
Yeah.
So you are spot on about confirmation bias.
Yeah.
We mathematically favor the hits and completely ignore the misses.
So how does science fix that?
Well, the scientific challenge is figuring out how to filter out that coincidental behavior and prove that there is a genuine, statistically significant response to disaster precursors.
Right, because you can't just put a 7.0 magnitude earthquake in a controlled laboratory setting, put a golden retriever in a glass box, and take notes on what it does.
You really can't. The lack of controlled conditions makes the methodology incredibly difficult for this kind of study.
So what do they do instead?
What scientists can do is look at the sheer volume of data through a really rigorous statistical lens. There is this groundbreaking, highly cited study that specifically tackled this problem.
Oh, what did they look at?
They meticulously analyzed over 1,000 separate reports of unusual animal behavior preceding 160 different earthquakes.
Wow, 1,000 reports across 160 quakes.
Exactly. And by aggregating data on that massive of a scale, the random noise of coincidence, the dog barking at the plastic bag or the dog with the upset stomach, that noise starts to just filter out.
Because the stomach aches don't all align perfectly with the fault lines.
Precisely. What remains are the statistical anomalies. When researchers analyze that volume of data, clear, repeatable patterns emerge.
So it's not just a myth anymore.
No, they concluded that the evidence is mathematically strong enough to prove that animals are indeed detecting distinct environmental precursors to seismic events.
That is amazing.
It completely moves the conversation firmly out of the realm of anecdotal coincidence and establishes it as a legitimate, provable biological phenomenon.
Okay, so if we accept the statistical reality that this is a genuine biological phenomenon, which it sounds like we have to, the most important question becomes how?
Right. What's the mechanism?
Exactly. What is the mechanism? If they aren't psychic, they must be pulling physical, measurable data from the environment. So what exactly is a dog sensing before an earthquake hits?
Well, the biology of a canine early warning system is just staggering when you really break down the anatomy.
I mean, I know they have good noses, but...
It's beyond good. Biologically speaking, referring to these abilities as sensory superpowers honestly isn't much of an exaggeration.
Really?
Yeah. Dogs possess a sensory apparatus that allows them to function as continuous, highly sensitive environmental monitors.
Wow.
To really grasp how they do this, we have to fundamentally shift our perspective. We have to realize that a dog's perception of the world is just vastly different from ours.
How so?
They are constantly operating within a sensory landscape full of chemical trails, acoustic waves, and microvibrations that are entirely invisible, inaudible, and imperceptible to human biology.
Okay, let's start with their sense of smell then.
Okay.
Because while we all know dogs have great noses, the actual scale of their olfactory capability is hard to even comprehend.
It really is.
From the source article, humans have roughly 6 million olfactory receptors, right?
Correct.
Dogs have up to 300 million.
300 million. It's wild.
Which means they can detect odor concentrations 100 million times lower than we can. It's the equivalent of being able to smell a single drop of liquid diluted in 20 Olympic-sized swimming pools.
It's almost impossible to picture.
It is. But here is my question. How does an incredible sense of smell actually help predict an earthquake? What are they smelling? They aren't smelling the ground shaking, right?
Well, in a very literal way, they actually are smelling the geological stress of the Earth itself.
Wait, what? Smelling the stress?
Yeah. The leading scientific theory regarding olfaction and earthquake detection is based on the subterranean mechanics of how a fault line actually ruptures.
Okay, break that down for me.
Long before the Earth violently shakes on the surface, there is this immense, agonizing buildup of pressure deep underground.
Right, the tectonic plates.
Exactly. As those massive plates grind against each other, the extreme stress and friction create microfractures in the rocks miles below us.
Okay, so the rocks are cracking.
Yes. And that physical grinding process releases trapped gases and subtle chemical changes that slowly percolate from the deep crust up through the soil and into the surface air.
Oh, wow. What kind of gases?
We are talking about the release of localized radon gas, ozone, and specific chemical compounds from shifting groundwater.
And the dogs can smell that.
Because a dog's nose can detect chemical concentrations 100 million times lower than ours, it is entirely biologically plausible that they are smelling these minute, unusual chemical changes in the ambient air long before the tectonic tension finally snaps.
Long before the physical shaking happens.
Exactly. They're smelling the chemical precursor to the disaster.
That completely changes how I view my dog just sniffing the dirt on a walk.
I know, right?
They aren't just smelling where another dog has been, they are quite literally processing the chemical health and geological stress of the Earth's crust.
They're little geologists.
They really are. But the canine disaster detection system isn't just reliant on their nose, right? Their hearing is arguably just as critical, but in a way that I think most people misunderstand.
Oh, absolutely. Hearing is huge.
Because we know dogs can hear high-pitched dog whistles. Like, humans top out at hearing frequencies around 20,000 hertz, while dogs can hear up to 65,000 hertz.
Right. Very high frequencies.
But hearing a high-pitched sound doesn't warn you about an earthquake. The key to disaster detection is actually on the complete opposite end of the acoustic spectrum, right?
Exactly. While their high-frequency hearing is impressive, for hunting small prey and things like that, the critical factor for detecting massive natural disasters is their ability to perceive infrasound.
Infrasound, what exactly is that?
Infrasound consists of extremely low-frequency acoustic waves. These are sounds that are so deep and so low that they fall entirely below the threshold of human hearing.
Like, we literally cannot hear them at all.
Not a chance.
Yeah.
But when tectonic plates shift, or when a massive storm system is brewing miles away,
Wow.
or when magma is moving beneath a volcano, all of those massive energetic events generate infrasound waves.
And dogs can hear them.
They can. And the really remarkable thing about low-frequency waves is that they can travel enormous distances through the ground and the air without losing much energy.
Oh, so they hear it from super far away.
Yes. So while you might be sitting in your living room feeling perfectly relaxed in total silence, your dog might be listening to the low-frequency acoustic grumble of the Earth's crust fracturing deep underground.
To the dog, the environment is already screaming a warning.
Exactly. The alarm is already going off.
That is insane.
Yeah.
So their nose is pulling in radon gas, their ears are picking up infrasound rumbling. And then there's the third pillar of the system, which is their actual physical sensitivity to the earth vibrating.
The tactile sense, yes.
Because when an earthquake occurs, it generates different types of seismic waves.
Right.
The two main ones are P waves, which stands for primary waves, and S waves, which stands for secondary waves.
You've done your homework?
I try. So the S waves are the slow, violent, rolling motions, right? The ones that knock buildings down, destroy highways, and are easily felt by humans.
Yes. Those are the destructive ones.
But the P waves are fast, weak, compressional waves that travel outward from the epicenter much faster than the destructive S waves.
That's right. And P waves are almost always entirely undetectable to the human body because the physical displacement they cause is just so subtle.
We just aren't sensitive enough to feel it.
Exactly. But dogs, through the highly concentrated nerve endings in the pads of their paws, are exquisitely sensitive to microtremors traveling through the ground.
So they feel it in their toes.
They do. They physically feel that weak P wave moving through the floorboards seconds, or sometimes tens of seconds, before the destructive S wave finally arrives.
So the dog feels the P wave through their toes first. It's exactly like seeing lightning before you hear the thunder.
Oh, that is a perfect way to visualize it.
Right. The geological event has already happened at the epicenter. The dog is just perceiving the much faster flash of the P wave before our blunt human senses finally feel the slower boom of the S wave.
The P wave is the flash. The S wave is the boom. And in those precious seconds between the flash and the boom, the dog is reacting.
Wow.
It circles back to what we discussed earlier. They aren't predicting the future. They're reacting to a present physical stimulus.
The disaster has already begun.
Exactly. It has begun. It is just manifesting in a physical form that our human biology is entirely unequipped to detect.
It's humbling, honestly. You look at your dog napping on the couch and you realize that underneath all the fluff and the drool, They are a biological sensor suite that rivals our most sophisticated technology.
It really makes you appreciate them on a whole new level.
It does. But what's even more fascinating is that this early warning system isn't just calibrated for earthquakes. The Earth throws a lot of different kinds of tantrums, and dogs have completely different sensory triggers for each of them.
Yes, they do.
The way a dog senses an impending thunderstorm is completely different from how they sense a volcano,
So
right?
completely. This is where the sheer versatility of canine biology really shines.
Okay, let's talk about severe weather first, like a massive thunderstorm or a developing hurricane.
So with storms, dogs essentially act as living, breathing barometers.
Barometers.
Yeah. Before a major storm hits, there is always a rapid, significant drop in atmospheric barometric pressure.
Okay.
Now, humans might occasionally feel a slight twinge and a bad knee, or maybe get a mild headache when the pressure drops. But for a dog, that rapid atmospheric shift causes literal physical discomfort within their inner ear anatomy.
I was reading about that in the Doggozila article, and it makes total sense when you think about the mechanics of the ear. It's like when you are in an airplane that is descending rapidly and the cabin pressure changes.
Exactly.
If your ears don't pop to equalize the pressure, it becomes incredibly painful. And a dog's inner ear is vastly more sensitive to these atmospheric changes than ours, right?
Much more sensitive. When the barometric pressure drops suddenly before a storm, the outside air pressure decreases, but the pressure inside their middle ear stays the same.
Creating a painful imbalance.
Yes. That physical discomfort, that literal pressure in their head, is what often triggers the anxious pacing, the whining, and the instinct to seek shelter in a small enclosed space.
Because their head physically hurts.
Exactly. And combine that physical ear pressure with their ability to hear the infrasound rumbling of thunder from a storm system that is still 50 miles away.
Right.
And you have an incredibly effective multi-layered storm detection system. They are experiencing the storm long before the first drop of rain falls.
That is just incredible. But then you look at volcanic eruptions, and the biological trigger is completely different.
Totally different.
How does that work?
Well, the mechanics of a volcanic eruption involve immense geological stress, similar to an earthquake, but with the added volatile elements of moving magma and volcanic ash.
Okay, so it's messier.
Much messier. As the rocks fracture and grind beneath the surface, and as ash particles are violently forced up into the air and rub against one another, it creates a tremendous amount of friction.
And friction creates static.
Bingo. This extreme friction generates massive, localized electrostatic charges in the surrounding environment.
Wow.
Now, humans generally don't notice ambient static buildup until we, touch a metal doorknob and get a shock.
Right. Just a little zap.
But a dog's fur is highly sensitive to electrostatic changes in the air.
So wait, it's not an internal pressure feeling like with the storm. It's an external physical sensation on their body.
Precisely. It is known as the triboelectric effect.
The triboelectric effect.
Yes. The massive buildup of static electricity in the environment essentially interacts with the dog's coat, causing a literal, uncomfortable prickling sensation right at the base of their hair follicles.
Oh, that sounds awful.
Imagine the feeling of rubbing a balloon on your head and feeling your hair stand up.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
But amplify that sensation 100 times and imagine it covering your entire body.
I would panic.
Exactly. It is a highly unnatural, irritating feeling that causes the dog to scratch nervously, shake their coat, and ultimately feel an overwhelming urge to flee the immediate area just to escape the static field.
That makes perfect sense.
That electrostatic prickling is the primary biological trigger observed in animals desperately trying to leave volcanic regions before an eruption. Second, they are feeling the resulting key wave vibrations traveling through the continental shelf and up onto the coastline.
Through their paws.
Right. They are literally hearing the ocean floor tear apart and feeling the land vibrate long before the resulting displacement of water ever forms into a visible, approaching wave on the horizon.
This perfectly explains the behavior we saw in 2004.
The dogs on the beach, yes.
The dogs on the beach were reacting to a massive, violent, energetic event that was still miles out to sea, completely invisible and inaudible to their human owners who just, wanted to throw a tennis ball.
Exactly. The humans saw a nice beach day. The dogs heard and felt an apocalypse.
When you break down the biology and the physics like that, it sounds so incredibly logical, it makes perfect sense.
That's just science.
But if it's this clear cut, if they are feeling pressure, hearing infrasound, and feeling static charges, how is modern science actually capturing and utilizing this data?
That's the big hurdle.
Because you can't exactly ask a dog, excuse me, is your inner ear hurting, or are you feeling a P wave in your left paw?
No, unfortunately not.
Getting empirical data from an animal that can't speak seems like an insurmountable hurdle.
It is arguably the defining challenge for researchers in this space. The broader scientific community remains cautiously optimistic about the concept of dogs as early warning systems. But science demands empirical, repeatable proof.
It demands hard numbers.
Exactly. It demands data that can be quantified.
Right.
We discussed earlier how you can't easily reproduce a natural disaster in a lab to watch a dog react.
Right.
Furthermore, you have the variable of the individual dogs themselves. Not every dog is going to react the exact same way to a stimulus.
Oh, that's true, just like people.
Right. A highly anxious terrier might pace for an hour, while a lethargic basset hound might just sleep right through the P wave.
My dog would probably sleep through it.
And not every natural disaster produces the exact same precursor signals either. An earthquake occurring in sandy soil might produce entirely different chemical gas releases than an earthquake occurring in solid bedrock.
So the variables are just endless. How do researchers move past surveys and anecdotal stories then? How do they get the hard data?
Well, they are turning to advanced modern technology to bridge that gap. There are fascinating theories currently being tested, such as the one proposed by researchers associated with NASA.
NASA's looking into this?
Oh, yeah. Their theory posits that rocks under extreme tectonic stress generate positive hole charge carriers, or P-holes.
P-holes.
Yeah, and these poles travel to the Earth's surface and release charged ions into the air.
Okay, so more invisible stuff.
Right. But these ions can directly affect mammalian brain chemistry. They potentially ionize serotonin in the brain, causing sudden, completely unexplained agitation in animals.
Oh, wow. So it's chemically altering their mood.
That's the theory. And to prove complex theories like this, researchers are having to take the laboratory into the real world.
How do you do that?
They're combating the lack of controlled conditions by utilizing systems like the Animal Disaster Alert System.
What is that?
It involves outfitting dogs with highly sensitive, high-tech activity monitors.
Oh, I've seen these. So basically outfitting dogs with highly advanced canine smartwatches.
Essentially, yes. These monitors continuously track the dog's movement, their resting heart rate, their sleep cycles, and minute levels of restlessness.
So it takes the human guesswork out of it.
It completely removes the subjectivity. It removes an owner saying, Fido seemed a bit anxious this morning. Instead, the researchers get hard, undeniable data.
Like dog 45's baseline activity level inexplicably spiked 400%.
Exactly. Accompanied by a 30% increase in resting heart rate at exactly 2.14 p.m.
That is so cool.
But the really groundbreaking, revolutionary work is happening through the application of crowdsourced big data.
Oh, right. The Canine Seismic Sense project from the Doggozila article.
Yes. The scale of that project is incredible.
The scale is what really caught my attention, because we couldn't have done this 20 years ago. It relies entirely on the modern convergence of biology, smartphones, and global data networks.
The logistics of it are brilliant. The project relies on enlisting thousands upon thousands of everyday pet owners across active seismic zones.
Just regular people.
Just regular people. The owners log their dog's daily activity, their mood, and any unusual behaviors into a dedicated centralized smartphone app.
So it creates this massive database.
A continuously updating real-time database of canine behavior across a huge geographic area. And the true genius of the project is that this behavioral data is then constantly algorithmically cross-referenced with real-time geological activity reports.
Like from the USGS.
Exactly, the United States Geological Survey.
It's literally turning the entire pet population of a city into a decentralized network of biological seismographs.
It really is.
Think about the massive implications of that for early warning systems. Like, let's say you have an AI constantly analyzing the tracker data from 20,000 dogs spread across Los Angeles.
Let you picture that.
If one dog in Hollywood starts pacing, the algorithm ignores it. That's just a dog being a dog.
Maybe it's a cat.
Right. But if suddenly, at exactly 2:00 p.m., 8,000 dogs across 3 specific adjacent zip codes all simultaneously experience a massive, unprecedented spike in pacing, elevated heart rates, and disrupted sleep.
then you have something.
That is no longer a coincidence. That is a massive statistical anomaly happening in real time.
And that anomaly is exactly what researchers hope to integrate into official early warning systems in the future.
How would that integration actually work?
Well, if the algorithm detects that massive regional simultaneous spike in canine anxiety, it could instantly trigger a secondary alert to geological monitoring stations.
Okay, so it wouldn't necessarily trigger the city's warning sirens on its own.
No, we aren't turning the launch keys over to the dogs just yet.
Good to know.
But it could alert human geologists and AI systems to look much more closely at their deep Earth seismic sensors, corroborating the biological data with the physical data.
Because every second counts.
Exactly. In the business of earthquake prediction, providing even just 30 precious extra seconds or a minute of warning time can be the difference between life and death for thousands of people.
That is just incredible to think about. You, a listener right now, could literally contribute to a citywide early warning system just by putting a smart collar on your rescue dog and letting an app track their zoomies.
It's a really empowering thought.
It really is. But until that high-tech, AI-driven global network is fully perfected and actually integrated into our infrastructure, we are still just individual pet owners sitting in our living rooms.
Very true.
So how do we, on a practical, day-to-day level, know if our dog is desperately trying to warn us of an impending earthquake, or if they are just having a panic attack because the mail carrier walked up the driveway?
Right, the everyday reality of it.
Exactly. This is where the rubber meets the road. We have to talk about how to accurately interpret dog behavior and how to distinguish completely normal anxiety from a genuine, life-saving disaster alert.
It is arguably the most practical challenge for the average dog owner. Understanding what a genuine alert actually looks like requires paying really close attention to specific, unusual behavioral clusters.
What kind of clusters?
Well, common signs of a potential environmental alert include prolonged, intense whining or barking directed at absolutely nothing in particular.
Just staring at a wall and whining.
Yeah. And as we mentioned earlier, it often involves frantic attempts to hide or seek shelter in highly unusual places.
Like the bathtub.
Exactly. A dog that is normally completely comfortable in the living room, suddenly trying to physically wedge itself behind a toilet, or digging frantically at the floor of a basement closet.
What else?
You might also see intense clinging behavior, where the dog flat out refuses to leave your side. Extremely agitated pacing, or even aggressive attempts to physically herd family members toward a specific location or an exit door.
Okay, let's unpack the herding behavior for a second, because I find this fascinating.
It's really interesting psychology.
Right. Why are they trying to push us to the door? If a dog senses a massive threat, why wouldn't their basic fight-or-flight instinct just tell them to bolt out the doggy door and save themselves?
It comes down to deep-rooted canine psychology and their evolutionary survival instincts. Dogs are fundamentally pack animals.
Right.
And they absolutely view their human family as the core members of their pack.
Oh.
When they sense an overwhelming, inevitable environmental threat, whether it's the smell of subterranean radon gas or the terrifying infrasound of a tsunami, their instinct isn't just selfish self-preservation.
It's about the group.
Exactly. It is the collective survival of the pack unit. The herding behavior, the clinging, the frantic attempts to guide you toward an exit, those are all desperate manifestations of their biological drive to keep the family safe.
So they perceive a massive threat that we are apparently ignoring, and they are taking it upon themselves to manage the safety of the group.
They're trying to save you.
Which is incredibly endearing, but also, let's be honest, incredibly stressful for the owner trying to figure out what's going on.
Oh, without a doubt.
Because we have to play detective with our own pets. I know plenty of dogs that pace and whine when a visible thunderstorm is happening, which is obvious. You see the rain, you know why they're whining.
Sure.
But how do I know my dog isn't just pacing because he ate half a shoe in the yard and his stomach hurts?
Right.
If my dog starts whining and clinging to me, how do I know it's not a medical issue? Jumping to dramatic conclusions that the world is ending every time your dog whines is a terrible way to live.
And that is exactly why establishing a behavioral baseline is so critical for every owner.
What baseline?
Yes. Differentiating normal anxiety or a sudden medical issue from a genuine disaster alert requires you to possess a deep, intimate knowledge of your dog's normal daily behavior.
Okay, so paying attention to their habits.
You need to know their normal energy rhythms, their typical sleeping spots, and most importantly, their known behavioral triggers.
Triggers, right.
If your dog always gets incredibly anxious when they are left alone, or when there are loud noises like fireworks, or when a delivery truck pulls up, that is a known behavioral response to a mundane stimulus.
It's expected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But a genuine disaster alert is defined by its complete lack of context.
Lack of context, that's the key.
It happens entirely out of the blue. For example, on a perfectly calm, quiet Tuesday afternoon, with absolutely no obvious stressors, no changes in routine, and no known phobias present.
Context really is everything. If the mailman is at the door, it's the mailman.
Right.
If it's a silent room and the dog suddenly acts like the house is on fire, pay attention.
Exactly. And there's also a massive community clue that you can look for.
What's that?
If you are outside and your dog is acting erratically, look around. Is the neighbor's dog also going crazy?
Ooh.
Are the dogs 2 streets over suddenly howling in unison? Multiple dogs across a neighborhood acting strangely at the exact same time is an incredibly powerful indicator that an invisible environmental precursor is present.
Because they can't all have an upset stomach at the exact same time.
Exactly. But to address your point about the upset stomach, it is very true that sudden, drastic behavior changes can signal a severe medical issue.
Yeah, that's what I'd worry about first.
And you should. A dog in acute physical pain will pace, whine, and hide. This is why knowing your dog is so crucial. If the behavior is totally out of context for the environment, but could be a sign of illness, you have to use your judgment.
Based on your bond with the animal.
Right. You decide whether to trust the environmental alert or to immediately call your veterinarian.
Okay, so let's map out the practical application of this.
Let's do it.
Let's say you've done the detective work, you've ruled out the mail carrier, you've ruled out separation anxiety, you've ruled out a medical emergency.
Check, check, check.
The dog is pacing, whining, and trying to physically herd you into the basement on a beautiful sunny day. Multiple dogs on the street are barking.
Okay, situation red.
You've concluded the dog is signaling real danger. What do you actually do in that moment to prepare? Because we need to talk about practical preparation and the reality of how to handle this information safely.
The very first step in practical preparation is managing your own reaction.
Don't panic.
Do not panic. You must use your dog's alert strictly as a cue to gather more information.
Just a cue.
Yes. Use it as a prompt to immediately check official weather apps, tune into local emergency radio channels, or check the USGS website for seismic activity.
You don't just run screaming into the street.
You absolutely do not use a dog's behavior as a reason to blindly panic, start screaming, or immediately evacuate your home without corroborating evidence.
That makes sense.
Your calm, responsible reaction respects the dog's potential sensory ability while keeping you grounded in rational, safe, and logical action. If you panic, you're only going to exponentially amplify the dog's anxiety.
Because they read our emotions.
Exactly. You'd be creating a chaotic environment when you desperately need a calm one.
Right. The dog is already overwhelmed. They don't need you losing your mind, too.
Exactly.
But beyond checking your phone, the physical preparation aspect is where pet owners really need to step up. Every expert recommends having an emergency go bag for natural disasters, but usually people just throw an extra bag of dry kibble and a spare leash in their kit and call it a day.
Which is nowhere near enough.
No. Because building a kit for an animal that is acting as a biological sensor requires a totally different approach. You have to build this bag based on canine instincts and the massive sensory overload they are currently experiencing.
That is a fundamental distinction that most pet owners completely miss.
How so?
During a natural disaster, your dog isn't just being physically displaced from their comfortable home. Their highly tuned sensory systems are being completely overwhelmed and battered.
Right, the 300 million receptors.
Yes. Their nose is flooded with the smell of ruptured gas lines, ozone, and pulverized concrete. Their delicate hearing is being assaulted by the infrasound of the earth moving and the high-frequency screeching of structural damage.
It must be absolute torture for them.
It is. A proper pet emergency kit must be designed to actively address this heightened, terrified sensory state.
So what needs to go in the bag? Give us the checklist.
Essential items must include a deeply familiar blanket that smells like their normal home.
For the olfactory anchor?
Yes. A favorite, highly durable toy to redirect their nervous energy. A well-fitted anxiety wrap. And canine calming pheromone sprays.
Okay, I really want to emphasize this point for everyone listening right now. Putting an anxiety wrap or a pheromone spray in your emergency kit is not about pampering your dog.
Not at all.
It is not a luxury item for a spoiled pet. It is a vital, necessary medical tool to address the intense biological reality of what is happening to their nervous system.
It is basic first aid for their senses.
Yeah, exactly. An anxiety wrap, like a thunder shirt, provides consistent, physical, deep pressure therapy. It acts directly on their autonomic nervous system, helping to physically ground them and lower their heart rate when the electrostatic charge of the air or the agonizing barometric pressure in their ears is driving them into a blind panic.
You said it perfectly.
And that familiar blanket. It provides a crucial baseline olfactory anchor. When the entire world smells like danger and destruction, having one small space that smells exactly like their living room can prevent a total psychological breakdown.
It's about mitigating the negative side effects of their evolutionary gifts. Creating a safe, predictable, calm environment during the chaos of disaster preparation is absolutely vital to their survival.
And yours, honestly.
Yes, having these specific sensory tools ready allows you to effectively manage their psychological state, which in turn makes evacuating your home or sheltering in place in a basement infinitely safer and more efficient for both of you. You are directly treating the biological fallout of their sensory superpowers.
It is so practical. I challenge everyone listening to this. Go assemble this specific sensory-focused pet emergency bag today. Do not wait until the dog is pacing and the sky is turning green.
Please do it today.
Make sure your furry early warning system is protected and that you have the physical tools to calm down their overwhelmed nervous system. But this brings us to a really serious point that we have to discuss.
The ethics of it.
Yes, the ethics. If we fully acknowledge that dogs have these incredible scientifically backed sensory abilities, there is a very real temptation for people to just rely on them completely.
And that is a massive, incredibly dangerous trap to fall into.
Yeah.
We have to be very clear about the burden of responsibility here.
We can't just put them in charge.
We absolutely cannot, under any circumstances, rely on dogs as our primary warning system for natural disasters.
Why not, if they're so accurate?
Because it is fundamentally reckless to place the heavy burden of human safety on the innate, unpredictable biological instincts of an animal. As we've discussed at length, misinterpreting their behavior is incredibly easy.
The squirrel versus the earthquake.
Exactly. Relying on a false alarm because your dog was actually just reacting to a squirrel can cause unnecessary panic, dangerous evacuations, and a loss of trust in real alerts.
The boy who cried wolf.
Exactly. And conversely, and much more dangerously, ignoring official government warnings because your dog happens to be fast asleep on the couch and not reacting. That could literally cost you your life.
Exactly. Not all dogs are going to react, and not all disasters produce the same cues. You cannot look at a sleeping, totally relaxed golden retriever and assume that a Category 5 hurricane isn't barreling toward your house just because the dog seems fine.
No, you can't.
The dog might have a slight ear infection that is masking the barometric pressure change, or they might just be a really heavy sleeper.
Precisely. They are our companions first, and potential disaster predictors a very distant second.
That's a great way to put it.
Their instincts are a fascinating, deeply rooted biological mechanism that can serve as a highly valuable secondary alert, a personal, localized cue for you to be more vigilant and to check your primary sources.
It prompts you to look at your phone.
Yes, but we must always balance animal instinct with human technology. Our sophisticated Doppler radar systems, our deep Earth seismographs, and official government emergency broadcasts must always remain our primary, trusted sources of life-saving information.
Technology saves lives.
Expecting a family pet to replace a billion-dollar network of geological sensors is completely unfair to the animal and immensely dangerous for the owner.
It all comes down to respect. Respecting their incredible biological abilities, but also deeply respecting their limitations and their proper role within our families.
Beautifully said.
Bringing this entire deep dive full circle, I think understanding these hidden depths of perception only serves to profoundly deepen the bond between a human and their dog.
Oh, absolutely.
When you look at your dog sitting there and you realize that they are physically tuned in to the very heartbeat and geological stress of the planet itself, it completely changes how you view them.
It really does.
They aren't just goofy pets waiting for a treat. They are incredibly sophisticated, highly tuned biological organisms navigating a complex world of invisible physical forces that we are entirely blind to.
It truly is a paradigm shift in how we understand and interact with our canine companions. And as we wrap up this exploration into the science of canine senses, I want to leave everyone listening with a final, slightly provocative thought to mull over.
Oh, I love a provocative thought. Let's hear it.
We spent this hour discussing how incredibly sensitive dogs are to subtle natural shifts, the microvibrations, the static charges, the faint infrasound.
Right.
But consider the modern environment we force them to live in today. As our human world becomes increasingly louder, filled with the constant, heavy urban vibrations of subway trains and construction machinery,
Oh, wow.
a dense, inescapable web of electronic and radio frequencies, and persistent chemical pollution altering the air and groundwater, are we essentially jamming our own dog's natural radar?
Are we blinding them with our noise?
Exactly. Could the loud, industrial, modern environment we've built around ourselves be actively dulling and overwhelming an evolutionary superpower that took millions of years of natural selection to perfect?
Wow.
It is a question that challenges us to consider not just how dogs sense the natural world, but how our unnatural world is impacting their incredible senses.
Oh, that is a deeply chilling thought to end on. Are we jamming our own biological early warning systems with the sheer volume of our modern noise? That is definitely something to think about the next time you are walking your dog down a busy, vibrating city street and they seem a little overwhelmed.
They're processing a lot.
They really are. Well, thank you so much for bringing your incredible insights and breaking down the deep science for us today. It has been absolutely eye-opening.
Thanks for having me. It was a blast.
Thank you for listening, dear Brigadiers. And if you have any questions, visit the source article on Doggozila Magazine at doggozila.com.
Bye, everyone.
That was all for this episode. And until the next time, bye to all listeners of the Bark Brigade podcast.